This blank wood block might look ordinary, but over the next hour or so, I'll turn it into a vibrant Provincetown print using a century-old Cape Cod technique. Stick around for the reveal and enjoy the process along the way. So here's my inspiration for this. It's a little cottage, which used to be a boathouse on Commercial Street. So the waterfront is right behind it. I ride by this every day on my bicycle, and it changes with the seasons. This obviously was a fall shot because the leaves are gone and whatnot. You can see maple leaf things on the ground, which is kind of how it looks today, since it's October when I'm shooting this. I take it from photo to a sketch. And then once I had the sketch, kind of how I liked it, it's an SVG, and then I burn that onto a piece of birch. So this is the sketch colored, this is the sketch flipped, because you gotta flip things when you're doing block prints. Sometimes it's easy to forget to do that. And then from here, I paint it. So I'm gonna use this as a color reference as I go. It just kind of gives me an idea of kind of the values and the colors that I thought would look good in this. So let's get started. I'm gonna grab some paints. I have kind of a standard, I've kind of come up with a bit of a standard color palette that I use for these kinds of things. It's a bunch of blues, some browns, some greens, and I have a red that I may or may not end up using for the what's actually brick, but it can be whatever I want it to be. This is the color that I usually go for. It's Rose Madder Deep. That is often what I do for brick, but we'll see. Put that aside and let it kind of sit there and think. That's my squeaky chair. I go for a brush. Okay, this one is like, this is the one I usually use. Wow. This is the Yasutomo #2. Look at that. Apparently I did not clean it last time I used it. Ugh. That happens sometimes, even when you think you're paying attention. Apparently the last thing I painted was brown, which makes sense. I think the last thing I did was a garden piece. All right. So clean that off a little bit. Get some water. I generally start up in this corner, but before I can start painting, I need a piece of paper, right? I need to figure out what I'm printing on. Let me grab a postcard. These are the postcards I've been using. I have about 100 of them, so I go to town. So what I typically do is I just put the postcard face down, right, the side that I want to be painting on. And then I use whatever tape I have handy. In this case, it's some pink painter's tape, which honestly, I haven't found the right tape yet. It doesn't tear. So this does a good enough job. I like to get the edge in there because I want it to hinge, right? So we're gonna be flipping like this a lot. Back and forth. All right. We'll also need my trusty spoon. And I will start on this side. Start with my sky blue. This is ultramarine pale. It's kind of the color that I use for sky, although I'm running out. I need to switch to something else soon. always had this idea that I would love to have a bedroom that faces the sunrise. So I've become an early to bed, early to rise person. I love waking up with the sun. And all of these houses, like this one, on the water here in town, face the sunrise more or less. And the sun, if you were in this house, the sun rises kind of that way. I'll show you a clip. I went out this morning on my kind of morning little constitutional. I like to ride my bike out to the middle of town and go out to the end of the pier and then back. I looked at my phone and it said, oh, it's 60 degrees. I asked it what the wind speed was. It said it was 23 miles per hour, which means it's going to be really cold. So I bundled up a little bit and went out, and it was really cold. By the time I got to the pier, it was around about 40 degrees. I was not dressed for 40 degrees. I didn't have my gloves. But I kept going. Along the way I stopped and shot a little bit of video of the sun coming up. I'll put that up here. This was from the parking lot at Angel Foods on Commercial Street. And of course, when you're trying to shoot video of a nice, peaceful, quiet morning, the trash truck drives in and starts throwing trash and recycling in the back. But it was gorgeous this morning. And we have a storm coming, supposedly a nor'easter. Might be the first one of the season. Remains to be seen. Sometimes they don't quite make it here. We are under a flood watch or flood warning. I'm not quite sure which one. I think it's just a flood watch at this point, because it's going to rain. But that's not really till Sunday, so I think we have the whole weekend to kind of enjoy some cooler weather and some sunshine. So I found when I'm doing these that it comes out a heck of a lot better if I stop in between colors and let it dry. So when I get through this blue, I'm going to pause. And I'll come back. Probably do the trees at the top. Happy little sky. You can see my table wiggle. Lovely. I noticed here, because I sketched in a line along the edge, I have a gap here, which I'm going to leave because this is a learning experience and kind of practice. Now I notice I have a tiny bit of sky that I need to do underneath this little tree bush thing. A bit of sky. Just probably gonna use a little too much water in that. It's kind of puddling up a bit. I'll make a mess when I do my spoon. There we go. Yeah, you can see it kind of blobbed a little bit. Technical term, blobbing. It happens. At least now I know when it's going to happen. I think, you know, I'm very much learning and developing my own techniques. There's not a lot of coaching to be had on this. You don't find YouTube videos about this. So that's part of why I'm doing it. So if I can find others who are doing this, I'd love to collaborate and share and talk more about this stuff. So while I'm letting this dry, I wanted to show you guys something that I've been experimenting with. This is nowhere near finished. This is just an initial attempt. There's this bookbinding technique that can create these very clever little fold-out books, which I thought this might actually be perfect for holding my postcards, because right now I'm putting them in these little 4x6 photo sleeves, but they don't have a place to live, and because they're this plastic, if you stack them, they just slide all over the place. It really kind of drives me crazy. So with this, I can actually have postcards in a little mini book. So it's a very simple sounding technique to make a tiny book. Of course, this was my first attempt, so it is far from perfect, but it was just a start. I wanted to see if this was even possible with the materials that I had, and we'll see how this comes out. I'll make another one and actually put some postcards in it. But I do kind of like this because it gives me a way to put like a set together. Like I can take six of my botanicals and put them in here, or do, you know, I could do 12 if I'm like the calendar project, which I'll show you a little bit later towards the end, the calendar that I'm working on with my postcards. So that is the book, postcard storage. So I'm gonna let this dry and I'll be back. I really like this particular brush because it handles well. Picks up just enough paint. So I'm going to print this. One of the reasons that I do a color study, particularly with when I'm using a lot of different colors, is because I lose track. Sometimes I paint something like a color that I didn't intend. So having this on hand really helps me to know if I'm painting things the way I had planned. Of course, you know, it's nice to have a plan. It doesn't always end up quite the way that you expected, but it's always good to have a plan so that you can have a starting point. So I'm going to leave that solidly brown. That's all it can be. 3 bits. One of the things I've noticed with these particular postcards, this paper, is that it doesn't absorb as, I don't know if it doesn't absorb it, but or if it absorbs it too much, but I get a lighter color with this than I do with other paper. So every paper kind of has its own qualities. In this particular Japanese postcard, it gives me colors that are slightly more pastel-y. Make a bit of a mess here. This little bit. I just realized that I hadn't turned on my overhead camera, so now we have the overhead. See there, I just painted a bit, that little bit. So we want that to be brown. The fortunate thing about the Kuretake paints is that they are relatively opaque. So when I do go in with the brown, if I decide to go over that green with brown, I'll get a pretty good cover of the green. It won't blend into greenish brown, I hope. I mentioned earlier how cold it was this morning. We finally turned the heat on in the house. We have one of those split systems that is either heat or air conditioning. It always seems as soon as you turn it one way or the other, the weather decides that it wants to be whatever it wants to be. So usually as soon as we turn the heat on, we get a heat wave. This time I think we've waited late enough. It's always funny when the heat comes on for the first time, and it like warms up the radiators and get a little bit of a burnt smell from, I don't know, dust or whatever is collected. Today it smelled like toasted bagels, which may have just been I had bagels on the brain, but wasn't an unpleasant smell. It's hard to find good bagels out here on Cape Cod. bagels here tend to just be very bready. Right, so that's that bit. I also want to do a little shrub bush tree thing over here. So I've been doing tons of sketches for postcards like this. So this one was quite a while ago. I just haven't gotten around to painting it. And I've learned a lot in this process of painting these. And you know, about how big of a space to leave myself to paint and how thick the lines should be and all of that. So this one is not optimized for what I currently would be doing if I were starting this one over again. All right, so we have blue and we have green, and then I'm going to do this little guy in here. Shrubbery bit. Shrubbery is over here. I think we'll do this too, just so I don't actually paint that some other color. Ooh, that was heavy. You can see it soaked right in. All right. So that is all of the green. So I will pause again, let this dry, and then come back with my next color, which will probably be the brown. Alrighty. Next is brown, and the last time I did brown, if you've been watching along, when I did the fern, I used this brown, which is just a burnt sienna. For this one, I'm going to use this brown, which is much darker, more chocolatey. So we'll start with the trees. Looks like I missed a little bit of leaves there. wobbly table syndrome. If anyone can suggest a not wobbly table, I've been looking at standing desks, a bit obsessed with standing desks. I have not found a budget one that is terribly stable from the reviews that I've been looking at. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know in the comments. All the ones I see people using on YouTube tend to be sponsored, so I won't mention those brands. I might just hack this table a little bit and add some cross bracing or something. So this is a fence over here, which I will endeavor to make a little fence-like. One of my favorite kind of fences that you see here in Provincetown are made out of sticks, sometimes driftwood. So they have this wonderful character to them. Give this a little cross bracing, since I'm talking about cross bracing on my desk. I figure the fence could use some too. So do that in this. So see, we've got a little bit of a fence-like, some fancy goodness. All right, and now I'm going to go back and do the green that I missed last time. Clean the brown out of the brush. A little bit green. This is going to look really dark, I think. Pick up a little bit of that. Yeah, see, it's got a funny darkness to it, but that's okay. I'm just looking at this, and there's this odd gap here. Oh, because there's a bunch of lines there that don't connect. There's not enough surface to pick up. You see over here too, there's a gap. There's nothing. It's this bit right here. I'm going to let this dry, because if I go and try to make changes on the brown while it's still wet, it tends to smudge. So I'm going to let that dry, and then come back and do another color. It looks like I've got, what colors do I have? I have more blue, but we'll probably do that to the last, because I'm not quite sure how I want to treat the windows here. They might just end up being that. And I've got gray color for the shingles. I have a blue and then a darker blue. So I did a lot of different blues in this. Then I have a beigey something and a yellow for this kayaky canoe thing. So I may make the kayaky canoe and the planters the same color. We'll see when I get there. Oh, and then of course I have the ground, the brickiness. So we'll let that brown dry and come back again. I was thinking about this while it was drying, and I think I do have quite a whole ton of blues here. So I have this cerulean, this indigo, I have the gray, I have a gray blue, my ultramarine. So I can go to town with the blues without any problem. So I think I will start with a dark, not with a dark, I think I will use the cerulean for this kind of ridge, and then I will use the indigo for this kind of shadowy bit underneath and for behind the bench, and gray for everything else. So we will get started with some cerulean. Now you notice here the engraved lines on either side of this are actually, in some places, a lot thicker than the painted line. So this will be very narrow. The wood is really gobbling up the pigment here. Go back over this to make sure I've got some color there. All right, you can see it's broken up a bit because it's just so narrow, which is fine. You can always do it again. So now I'm going to do around the windows. So in this nice cerulean. Funny thing about houses in Provincetown is some of them never change color. Some of them are like always white when they get repainted. Some of them like keep shifting. I don't know if it's new owners who just want a more festive color, or long-time owners who are just tired of looking at the gray house. This one has changed colors quite a few times. And the little iota cottage that I recently did, from a photo that was a few years old, that's now another color entirely. It used to be this nice kind of dusty rose, mauve kind of color, and now it's just grayish, beigey. also so many houses are white that it's hard to do one of these style prints where you have a lot of the paper showing through for areas that are white. It takes a bit of creativity. Because there's one house that I've wanted to do. It's this octagon-shaped house. It's in the West End. It's all white. And I'm perplexed at how to turn that into a print like this. Righty. A little bit more down here. Okay, yeah, see, that didn't, missed all chunks. That it's supposed to, but you can see I think the paper just, the wood rather, just sucked up that paint, yeah. All right, that was the cerulean. I may come back and do another layer of that. Yeah, we'll ponder it. So we'll let that dry, and then I will do the darker blue to the indigo. Then after that, I'll do the gray. Sounds like a plan, huh? We'll do this shadow again. La 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 la. Should I go for the right color? A little Eve bit. A little Eve bit over here. Just be little blobs. And we've got the blue, that dark blue. And we'll do blue around the bench. And it's blue. I'm going to jump right into the gray. It's funny how blue this gray looks right here on the wood. And this is the only gray in the Kuretake set. You can always make your own grays, but kind of stick into the palette as it is. Let it rub. I like that. I haven't experimented yet with doing tons and tons of lines for shingles. I think I'll get there at some point. Just not quite yet. I know I have some clapboard lines for, siding coming up in a couple of prints. So we'll kind of see how those go. Take it from there. Now this little lantern is so tiny. I have no idea how it's going to come out. With a good heavy rub. Not too bad. Looks like this little bit of cerulean didn't get picked up. So I probably will go back and do another hit with the cerulean later on. Put too much paint on that. It's okay. We won't tell anyone, will we? And it came out fine. I also noticed I missed these little brown bits didn't come across either. So it happens. Sometimes you put so little paint, it looks like it's covered, but the wood just sucks it right down. So that's the gray. And we'll let that dry, and I will, oh no, I missed. The bench is supposed to be gray too. Hello. Thank goodness I do these color references. Now this is going to come out really not the way I envisioned it, just because the lines are too thick. The engraved lines, way too thick. So I'm just kind of going to put as much paint down as I dare. Let's see what we get. Let's see. Let's see what excitement awaits us here on the bench. And not horrible. Not horrible at all. That gray behaves really well. So we'll let that dry. And come back with another color. Rearrange my water here so I have more brush cleaning area. And the next color is yellow. Now, I did yellow in this. I've got a few yellows to choose from. I think I'm going to use this one. Pull it out. This is Areolin. Because it's a little warmer than lemon yellow, but it's still a strong yellow. So, the middle bit first. Yellow. I'm giving it, trees with leaves and summer yellow. Because that is the artist's prerogative, right? It's kind of okay. It falls apart a bit. Little fence bits. I'm missing the brown bits. Kind of didn't. A bit of a blob there. So let me come back at the yellow again. For now, we put yellow aside. My brush. Let this dry. Then I will come back with the brick. Come back to do the brick. For this, we're just going to use the the rose madder deep. And just do a big ol' rose madder deep zone. I also pondered how do you do bricks, and I haven't come up with a good solution yet. Could do what I did over here. We just kind of leave some gaps and give it a impression of bricks. I haven't been terribly happy with my experiments in doing that to try to get bricks. This is a lovely color. I may end up doing this twice because the wood is really just inhaling this paint. Just wash a little extra. It's a really big area of one color to do all at once. Get rid down. Woohoo! So that's the rest. So you really see the texture of the paper through that. Really shows up. Wash that brush. I'm going to do the windows. The window panes, I've been mostly doing those in whatever color I do for the sky. Point being that the glass reflects the sky. It's the theory, at least. So I actually look at windows like this. They're just dark. I don't want dark windows. Windows that kind of draw you in and say, what's behind those? What's going on in that little house? those. Now I'm going to leave this whole thing just to dry. Then I will come back and do some touch-ups. We will fix the gaps here. That might be it. And I do a little connect the dots in a few spaces, in a few spots, if I feel like it. So since I was last sitting here, I have been to the Commons to see a show and a workshop-y thing. This group show is going on at the Commons through Monday, the 13th. It is a group show of Provincetown printers. And tonight they did a panel discussion and demonstration. So it was Bill Duvall, who is really well known. He used to have a studio right in the middle of town where he does some monumental, 6-foot size stuff. And also Sherry Sherwood, who is related to Bill, his stepdaughter, which I did not know. And she does some amazing Provincetown prints using acrylic paint, which I thought was interesting. So Bill and Sherry. Who else was there? Oh, this is another one of Sherry's cards. She has a show going on at the Truro Center for the Arts at Castle Hill. Also there was Lorraine Kujawa, who has some beautiful bird prints. If I have any photos, I'll show them, put them on screen so you can see those. Daryl Smith was also there, who is a local printmaker who actually also teaches at the Provincetown Art Association and Museum. So I took a class with him during the pandemic. That was really fantastic. And Julie Gray has some work up for display as well. And let me see, what else did I want to tell you about this? Is there anything else? I think that was it. Anyway, that was fantastic, really inspiring to see. Got to ask a lot of technical questions. Found out that Bill is doing a class, I guess next week at the Provincetown Art Association Museum. So I may have to see if I can squeeze in and get a spot there. That would be phenomenal. So I wanted to finish this up a little bit. I know when we last left, I said I was done with all the main colors and I was going to go back in and do some touch-ups where I missed some brown. Ooh, my brush got really hard. I missed some spots that needed some brown, and I wanted to go back over some of the blue. So we will start with the blue. So I'm going to pull some cerulean blue. It was really great to see printmakers in person and be able to chat a bit and get a sense of, what kind of papers do they use, what's their process like. Sherry did a bit of a demo, which was really nice. Got to talk to a couple of collectors and other artists. It was a full house, which is great to see. And if you happen to be in Provincetown, that show is really nice to see that many printmakers on display at the same time. You get to see lots of different techniques, different styles. See what happens. You notice that this has started to curve quite a bit because I've left it for several hours. One of the things that was mentioned was that the traditional spoon that was used was actually a sterling silver spoon, because the silver that they had at the time that wasn't sterling, this is, we're talking early 20th century, was nickel and alloys. And they would actually, I think, do what you're seeing here. It would rub off onto the paper. Oh, there, that's a bit better. So you can see, filled in some blanks. I'm quite happy with that right now, so I'm going to go switch over to brown. And it's amazing to see the level of detail that some folks are, able to accomplish, and it's just really impressive to see how advanced some of their skills are. I'm very much just a beginner. I've been experimenting with this for a number of years, but only recently kind of started doing it regularly, and that makes a world of difference. I have no idea what I'm going to get here. So dark. This is difficult to do in flat lighting. It's really also much more enjoyable when it's when I'm working in daylight and I can see the paint at different angles. You kind of see light play on the wood block. Right, let's see what we got. Oh, that's much better. So you can see it actually. There's fence posts again. Honestly, there was one little bit up here that I thought I'd missed. Not quite sure where that is. It's this bit right here. I'm actually going to go for this whole section. Then I accidentally painted green, and I'm just going to do this whole thing and see what we get. And also over there. I will do that next, though. Better. And then we're going to do this bit here, where it's all kind of discombobulated. I did get to ask questions too about different kinds of paper that folks use, and there seems to be a wide variety, but Bill talked most at length about using paper that's unsized works best for this technique. And Japanese papers that don't have sizing would be good. I need to do more experimenting, just continue trying different things. Let's see if I can get a sample pack of different kinds of papers. Much better. I did get a little runny, a little runoff. I'm okay with that. And I think I'm content with how this came out. So I think I'm gonna let it be and call that a day. So this is, I call this Boathouse. Boathouse on Commercial Street. Another charming little Provincetown cottage. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, take a look at some of the other printmaking videos that I've done. I'm doing a whole series of these, and I want to show you my calendar before I leave you today. I've been experimenting with some ideas on how to format prints into calendars. So this was one idea that I had, which was kind of a book style one, with a print on the left and a calendar on the right. The other one that I was considering was a more traditional flip calendar, right? With a print on the top and a calendar on the bottom that you could hang. So I'm experimenting with these, and I might do a short run of these for the holidays. My goal is to have something finished by the end of this month that I can decide what to do with. So that is work in progress. I'm going to put the art out into the world, whether it just becomes gifts for family or becomes something on an Etsy store. I'm not sure yet, but that is that's my work in progress. Thanks again for joining me. If you like this video, take a look at some of the others. I have a whole playlist of printmaking, and I'm working on a bunch of new stuff to come your way. So if you like printmaking, and in particular Provincetown prints, hit the like and subscribe so you can find out as I post new videos in the coming weeks. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.